Let's talk about the Indiana Pacers. They made the NBA Finals, but of course, they're probably not going to do that this season, and it could be a tumultuous season. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I just got finished watching Look Who's Oinking. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms. So yeah, watch them there, I guess. Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl update. Spots open, category leagues, points leagues, draft and stash, which is a roto format, best ball, which is a draft only points league format. It's all available over at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Linktree/LOFB Bowl, QR code on the screen, link in the description as well. Join up. You can join all of them if you want. If you're already in a $50 head-to-head category league, you can join up again. If you're already in a points league, you can join up again. If you're in the roto, you can join every one of these individual bowls if you so choose. I'm in more this year than I normally am because in the past I've done it where you could only enter once, but we've changed the format this season, so I'm in I think 3 of the head-to-head category ones: the best ball, the roto, the points, and the draft and stash. So you never know, you might find me in your league. I'm in definitely some of the ones that are available now. Not that that's necessarily a great thing, but for me, because you'll beat me. Let's talk about the Indiana Pacers for this upcoming season. Like I said, we know the story here. They made the NBA Finals. They were unbelievable. So many great comebacks, so many great stories, and now it's just not going to happen again. And their team has been flipped, done, turned upside down because Tyrese Haliburton's out for the season. They lost Miles Turner, and realistically, they probably won't make the playoffs. I guess they could make the playoffs, but you think they probably won't. So let's take a look at what I project their rotation to be. Only, I think, one real question here. That's the starting center. Andrew Nembhard will shift across to point guard. Bennedict Mathurin will start next to him. Rick Carlisle has told us this. Aaron Nesmith will start at the 3. Pascal Siakam will start at the 4. And I think opening night, it will be Jay Huff. I think he'll start at center. I don't know that he'll hold on to that spot. And I think that we could be in a scenario where we're getting a lot of rotating centers. I'll go through the other guys I've got in their rotation there. TJ McConnell, pretty obvious. Obi Toppin, pretty obvious. The 6th and 7th men without any question. Then I think it'll be Isaiah Jackson. Then we'll have Ben Shepherd and Jarris Walker. But I'm also not going to rule out the dildo, Johnny Furphy. I think that Furphy is a really interesting player for this upcoming season. And I think that he looks huge. He looks like he's put on weight and muscle. He looks like he's grown. I can see him ahead of Shepherd. I could even see him ahead of Walker. He's an interesting player. And again, like the centers I said, you've got Huff, you've got Jackson, but you've also got Jim Wiseman. You've also got Tony Bradley. But we'll talk a little bit about those guys in a second. But I think that is going to be most likely the starting group. Nembhard's going to be one of those ones where we look at Nembhard and we say, okay, cool. He's taking over from Tyrese Haliburton. He's going to be an easy draftable player. Well, let's just throw a little bit of information on that because, not to be harsh on him, he was bad last season. He was bad. Even in games where Tyrese Haliburton did not play, he was bad. Now, it is a different role to come into the season knowing that you are the starting point guard versus knowing that you are the starting 2 guard. But he was 174th in category leagues. He was 155th in points leagues. He played 29 minutes a game, and Rick Carlisle loves doing that. He loves limiting because they go hard as balls all the time. And the rotation is, I gave those 10 rotation guys, they can put Furphy in there. They could throw Cam Jones in there as well. They could throw an extra center in there. They could throw newly signed Monty Morris in there as well and go 12 deep. So don't think that just because Haliburton's out, that Carlisle's going to play these guys 33 minutes. I don't think he will do that. I think Nembhard plays more than 29 minutes, and I think his usage is higher than 16%, but he shot 29% from 3. His numbers are incredibly weird. Look at his playoff shooting numbers. He's like a 44% three-point shooter, and he's like a 29% shooter in the regular season. So is that a small sample size thing in the playoffs? Is he just likely to improve? But again, we saw this last season. Bad regular season, great playoffs. Then he came back into this season and was bad regular season. good playoffs. One thing I know is the 5 assists will go up. Very confident in that. That'll go up. But will the extra usage, which I think he gets, mean that 46 from the field is not achievable? Or if he's a 34% shooter, will that offset a 2-point drop? He also was only 79 from the line. So while I do think that Andrew Nembhard is going to be better, where he's going in drafts at the moment is, I think, expecting like best case scenario. It's just saying, well, we think playoff Nembhard will be the guy, but remember, every time that Haliburton has been out in the regular season, you haven't really wanted Nembhard. He just hasn't been good. He hasn't been good enough at all. So we do have to be a little bit cautious on him for this upcoming season. That will bring me into some questions I have about the projections, or some of the questions that I have when I'm doing the projections. Who is the starting center? And I guess the carryover question that is does it matter? Like I said, I think Jay Huff will be the opening night starting center for this team. Cool. But that's largely because Isaiah Jackson tore his Achilles 5 games into last season. And I think will be on a minutes limit and sitting back-to-backs. But I do think Jackson will probably take that spot over. What I think overall is going to happen is I put Jay Huff's numbers on the screen, because Huff had a really strong start to last season for Memphis. He had an incredible block rate. Look at his numbers. He only played 12 minutes a game, but he blocked a shot. That's 3 blocks per 36. He shot 41% on threes, and that was 1.3 threes. That's almost 4 threes per 36 minutes, which is an insane number. He had 19 usage. He did not rebound well at all. He does not get any assists. He does not get steals. His free throws are pretty good. Now, if he carries all these numbers over into 30 minutes, that's a top 60 guy easily. But he won't. He won't hit 4 threes a game. He won't even hit 4 threes at a per 36 pace. He probably won't block 3 shots a game. He may not even hit those percentage numbers. So, Huff is absolutely a must-draft player. And what do I mean by that? I'll re-stress again what I mean by must-draft. Doesn't mean you have to draft him. It means he can't be left on the waiver wire. Someone needs to pick him in every league. We can drop him later on, but it has to be picked. I would say that if Isaiah Jackson wasn't coming off the Achilles, that he'd be one of those guys as well. But I think one of the things, and I'll put Jackson's numbers, even though he only played limited minutes last season, one of the things that's going to happen with this team is it's just going to be a random assortment of centers. Huff might start and play 23. Jackson might play 20. Obi Toppin might play at center. And then Wiseman or Bradley might come in. Now, at the moment, I just mentioned this, they signed Monte Morris 2 days ago. I'm recording this one day after they signed him, but 2 days ago they signed him. They don't have the roster space for that. So somebody needs to go. And the 2 guys who have non or partial guarantees are Tony Bradley and James Wiseman. So at the moment, there's 4 centers on this team. If they are intent on keeping Monte Morris, and maybe they are, one of Wiseman or Bradley is gone, which helps Huff and it helps Jackson. You can see Jackson's numbers on the screen. 1.6 blocks in 17 minutes is crazy. He 5.6 rebounds and 7 points. So, like, again, if he was to be the starter, we would love him for fantasy. But I do think it's going to be Jackson, Huff, Bradley / Wiseman, and Toppin carving out the 48 minutes, which is going to probably render them all relatively impotent. You're not going to get what you need out of that spot. So, draft Jackson, draft Huff, draft Toppin in 14s, but don't feel that confident in it. What are the other questions? I've addressed this one already, but can Andrew Nembhard step up? Because like I said, we haven't seen that. It hasn't happened outside of small playoff samples. What about Ben Mathurin? Ben Mathurin is going to... Well, it also is worth remembering this. Tyrese Haliburton is not a high usage player. So losing Haliburton's usage does not mean that there are a million shots to go around. Mathurin into the starting lineup instead of Haliburton, which is basically the change, means that everybody else will see fewer shots. And I know that sounds so counterintuitive because, it doesn't sound right, does it? But here's why. Like, Haliburton had a usage of 21.7 last season, right? Average is 20. Mathurin had a usage of 22.9. So if you just direct swap those guys and assume that Mathurin keeps a similar usage rate, that means that the other starters will lose usage. Now, Miles Turner had a bang-on average usage. But we just saw, if Jay Huff is the starter, he's about a 19 usage guy, so about the same. So it's not like there's a million shots extra for Siakam or a million shots for Nembhard. There are more passing opportunities for those guys. But I would throw it to you that maybe Mathurin goes from 23 usage to 24 usage. And any perceived usage increases from those other guys may not happen. But what we also need to see from Mathurin is, can you do anything? Like, anything. He had some strong rebounding games last season, and maybe that's the thing that he does. But his passing is putrid. His defense is bad. He gets to the line a lot. His efficiency is not strong, but he gets to the line a lot. Now, he's going to be a really strong late pick, Ben Mathurin, and I like that because getting free throw impact later in drafts is very hard. Getting a potential 20-point scorer is hard, but he is a frustrating player who's continually frustrated Rick Carlisle. He played 30 minutes a game last season, Mathurin, but he was nowhere near where you needed him to be from a fantasy value point of view. Nowhere near that spot. So what is he adding? Can he get to 3 assists from 2? Can he get to 20 points? Does he even play more than 30 minutes? Probably, but Carlisle keeps him down. So it's not necessarily there. I said there, we're looking at a Pascal Siakam rise in assists. I think that's relatively obvious. He was like a 5+ guy in Toronto, came across to Indiana, and immediately it dropped. He was at 3.5 last season. That is going to jump. I don't have any worries about that. And the last projection question I have there is Furphy. Because at the moment, I actually don't have him in the 10-man rotation. But it wouldn't be crazy to me if he's the 8th man ahead of Walker and ahead of Shepherd. Playing the 2, playing the 3. Pretty good rebounder. Solid 2-point finisher. Very good 2-point finisher, in fact. 3-point shooter. I don't think there is the pathway for him being a full breakout standard league guy, but Aaron Nesmith had a lot of injury problems. And if Aaron Nesmith is out, I think they'd probably give Walker the chance, but I don't know. I will say this, and I'll give you away some of my strategy. In draft and stash and in best ball with stashability, I'm picking him. I'm picking the dildo, and I'm seeing where it goes. I don't know. I just have, it's based on not very much, but I just have a sneaking feeling that we're going to get a bit of a surprise Furphy season. Today's episode, it is brought to you by Skims. Skims Men's, it's a new thing. They've made women's underwear for a while, a long time in fact. You've seen them. They've been the official partner of NBA for undies, and now it's men as well. So if you want comfortable undies that you've heard about, people are always whispering it. Your friends, your family. I'm sure your mum's come up to you and go, hey, I got the best undies on. And you go, what are they, mum? She says, Skims. And you go, actually, don't talk to me about that. I'll talk to you about it instead. Skims Men's is there, the most comfortable underwear that you can find. You want comfort, you want style. You want a 3-incher, a 5-incher, a boxer brief, a regular boxer, a brown, a white, a black, a grey. All the colours are there. For Skims, all the materials are there. It won't ride, it won't annoy, it won't itch. Skims are the underwear that you didn't even know that you were looking for your whole life. Because us as blokes, sometimes, we sit there and we just go, whatever, who cares, man. But it annoys you. Right? I have to play undies, they're terrible. Skims are not. So shop Skims Men's at skims.com and let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, you select podcast in the survey and you select this show in the drop-down menu that follows. All right. We are talking Indiana Pacers, previewing their season from a fantasy point of view. Let's take a look now at some undervalued or potentially undervalued players heading into the year based on ranks and current ADPs. I think that Aaron Nesmith is someone that, let me phrase it this way. I know that Aaron Nesmith is someone I haven't loved from a fantasy point of view in the past because he just has struggled to have enough to do a lot of the time and injuries have been a problem. I actually think this season he's getting underrated, Nesmith. I think for category leagues in particular, he's ranked at 149 on Yahoo. For some reason, 198 on ESPN. I think there's an outside shot that he can be a top 100 player. Now, he is one of these guys as a wing defender who is incredibly foul prone, and it keeps his minutes down, which is not great when you're trying to accumulate fantasy stats, obviously. But one of these guys that can get steals, he can play up at the 4 as well. He has turned back into being a very good shooter, and I think there is a little bit of extra juice that he might have offensively. I am not thinking there's a top 70 season here for Nesmith, but I'm talking about a guy that's literally undrafted in ESPN, that's sitting as a last round Yahoo player If I took him in round 11, I'd be all right with that, actually. I think that he can beat that number pretty easily. I don't really think there's much debate about that, honestly. I think TJ McConnell's also being slightly underrated. On Fantrax, his ADP is 180. Okay. Now, I know that Nembhard's going to start. But I also know that in the past, if Haliburton was out, we'd likely get Nembhard starting and McConnell would move to a 23-minute role. And he'd be useful enough. Well, guess what? That's the baseline. That's the baseline now. But what happens if Nembhard's out? Well, TJ's going to play 29 and be a top 40 guy. Top 60 guy. High field goals, high assists, high steals, solid rebounds, low threes. Not a high usage player. We know the story with McConnell. But who cares? Draft and stash, love it. Stash ability, awesome. But he might also just sneak into the back end of regular leagues. Especially like in points leagues. Like he's sitting at 164 or the Yahoo rank. He's got an ADP of 180 on Fantrax. I love that for TJ. Now, if I look at TJ's ESPN numbers, he's ranked at 241 on their category league rank, which is clearly insane, but his ADP is 105. So it's pushed a little high there because his ESPN points rank is 87, which is definitely too high. But I also think that TJ can be a top 110 guy in ESPN points. But 87 is crazy. And I actually think Bennedict Mathurin's being slept on somewhat. ADP of 132 over on Fantrax. Now, his Yahoo numbers at 83, I don't really want that. That's expecting so much out of Ben. And he wasn't anywhere near that. But if I'm talking about getting him at 130, yeah. 90? No. 130? Yeah. And we need Mathurin to do more of the things that he hasn't yet shown that he can do, which maybe is a tough thing to ask for. All this stuff is relative, right? So when I say that I think Pascal Siakam is being a little bit overrated, it's because I think he is. Does it mean I think he's bad or you shouldn't draft him? No. Siakam at the moment sits with a ranking of 30 on ESPN and an ADP of 28. He's got an ADP on ESPN of 20 with a points league rank of 15, and that is just nonsense to me. Like I detailed earlier, he may not see a usage increase. He might not. What he will see is an assists increase. But 15 is crazy talk. Pascal was, and I'm going to bring up his numbers on ESPN points last season. In fact, I'll also bring up his whole little profile screen so we can look at all the numbers. But he was nowhere near that. This is buying into Pascal just, I don't know, basically adding Haliburton stats onto his numbers. Last season, Siakam was the 50th ranked player for ESPN points leagues. 50th. He averaged 20 points with 7 rebounds and 3.5 assists. He shot 52 and 39 from 3. He played 33 minutes. I'm not suggesting he's going to play more than 33. The usage, like I said, might go up. Probably will. And the assists will go up. But to get to 15, for example, Haliburton was 10th in ESPN points. He averaged 47.5 fantasy points. That means you need 10 extra fantasy points from Siakam this season. And I don't think you get that. I honestly don't know how you get that. Because the other thing is, if he does take more shots, the efficiency probably hurts. And part of the reason he was able to get his 3-point percentage back is because Tyrese Haliburton was feeding him. But if he's the one doing the feeding, well, he's not going to be able to shoot like that. So that is an insane pick to take him in the top 20. It's to me, in the top 30 for category leagues, he's also pretty crazy for Siakam. As much as I think that there's value in Pascal this season, he was nowhere near that last year. Like, not even close. I've got him around the 50 mark. If you wanted to take him at 40, go for it. That's okay. But going to 30, going to 20, craziness. I wouldn't do it. Plus, you also have the risk of this team just falling out of it and sporadic play through playoffs. I don't like that. And like I've already talked about, I think Nembhard is being overvalued. Currently, Andrew Nembhard's got a rank of 71 on Yahoo. It's just too high. Now, you might recall me talking yesterday about Asar Thompson and talking about how I might have him ranked in the 60s and he's going in the hundreds. And if you took him in the 60s, maybe that's okay because I feel relatively confident about the baseline there. But taking Nembhard at 70 takes away any potential upside value, I think, because to me, it's absolutely best case that he finishes 70th. Like, absolute best case. But a median outcome is nowhere near that in my mind. Nembhard is, for some reason, though, like ESPN ranked him 203 in their category. So that's obviously like a pretty good value. That's clearly insane, and they should hopefully at some point update that soon. And in points leagues, I think around 100 for Nembhard makes sense. In category leagues, I get it. You can put him around that 110 mark. That's okay. But going to 70 is silly. It takes any value away while also giving you maybe a 10% chance of him even achieving anywhere near that. And that's the combination that I don't like. That combination of you're eliminating upside while also having an unlikely scenario of hitting that number. I'm going to come back and talk about stars and breakouts and new arrivals and that stuff in a sec. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use right across the app. You can use it for the NFL. You can use it for NBA. You can use it for baseball playoffs. You can use it for the NHL season starting, WNBA playoffs, college football, player props, same-game parlays, multi-game parlays, futures bets. It's all there. Spreads, straight ups, all the stuff. It's all there. Of course it's there. It's fun. It's exciting. Put your knowledge to the test on FanDuel. And now, when you're ready to go and start that account, you win your first $5 bet. Well, there you go. You're off. So download the FanDuel app by going to FanDuel.com right now and get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, we are talking Indiana Pacers and their season preview here. Let's get into some of the guys that I consider as star options. And to me, it really is only Siakam who I think is going to be able to be a top 50 guy. And even then, I think it's somewhat borderline. I think he probably does get there in the end, but I think it's somewhat borderline. You could make an argument that if Jay Huff played 33 minutes, he would get there, and I understand that. If Nembhard turns into Haliburton, then sure, he'd get there too. Again, pretty big ask for someone who's never done it, or shown any signs of doing it in the role that he's been given. So to me, the only sort of top 50 option here is Siakam. And I've already detailed some of the issues with drafting him at where he's currently positioned, which is, it seems wrong to me. In terms of the new arrivals on this team, it's not, again, when we talk about the strengthening of the team, they lose Miles Turner and Tyrese Haliburton and they bring in Jay Huff. They draft Cam Jones and Talon Peter. They sign Ray J. Dennis. Now, you may only be familiar with Ray J from some of his video work, but he is a basketball player who was draft eligible last season. He's not a bad player. He's like a point guard. He's on a two-way contract. But then yesterday, for me, 2 days after you've seen this, they signed Monte Morris, who I also think is completely washed. He was terrible in Minnesota, terrible in Detroit, terrible in Phoenix. His back really screwed him up. Yeah, he's great at assist to turnovers. That's fantastic. But he's still going to be the third-string point guard here. And honestly, might not make the roster. I do worry that he is completely washed. Remember, Colin Gillespie was playing over him last season for Phoenix because he was so bad. And assist turnovers are only good, A, if you've got that category, but also he's not a risk taker. He's not a usage guy. He's not a reliable three-point shooter. Don't get excited. It would take a lot to happen for us to get interested in Monte Morris for any fantasy. I actually think, and as good as he's had a little run as a backup in the past, I think he's washed. And I think the injury may have just finished him, and he's just not a guy that you can have any reliability in. Huff is the more interesting one here, but there is a lot of competition there with Toppin, Jackson, Wiseman / Bradley, who both may not make the roster. Huff is the best permanent guy out of that group, probably, although Jackson's close. But I don't really believe or trust that Rick Carlisle is going to pump those minutes in. There are a lot of potential breakout options. I don't think they're all going to break out, but they're all potential. And I'll throw Johnny Furphy into this list as well, and Jarris Walker, who didn't even make the top 5 names. But Nembhard, very clearly, right? What if he is a 38% shooter and ups his usage and gets 8 assists? There's a lot of ifs there, but it could happen. Mathurin, what if he gets to 3 assists and scores 20 a game with 6 free throw attempts and maintains the high rebounding? That's breakout potential. 27 minutes from Jay Huff will put him on the map. He'll be a great fantasy player. 25 minutes of Isaiah Jackson will put him on the map and make him a great fantasy player. And what if they do decide to go small and play Obi Toppin 28 minutes? Now, that could give you one of the worst defenses in the NBA with Siakam and Toppin as the 4 and the 5. You get no rim protection or really any defense at all. Toppin's value comes in being a high 3-point percentage and high 2-point percentage guy who's a solid enough rebounder and decent usage. And he will have use as a streamer this season. I don't think that Obi Toppin's a 12-team league player. I think he's a guy you can look at in certain situations, but he's more of a 14-team league guy. I guess more of a 14-team league guy and a draft and stashy guy. Now, if Siakam is out, then Toppin will blow up. He will be a top 90 guy, I think. So that gives that stashableness there. But he's in an opportunity here to break up. But also, they traded for Obi Toppin to be their starting power forward. You know what they did? They went, absolutely not. We're starting Aaron Nesmith and now we're trading for Pascal Siakam. Remember that? And the opportunities in New York, Tom Thibodeau said, yeah, there's no way. We are not doing this. No way. He is not a starting caliber NBA player. Maybe he proves me wrong in year 6. Or is it year 7? Or is it year 6, 7? I don't know. But he's had chances and he's not good enough so far. But they're all in the breakout list. Throw in Jarris Walker, who again could be an out-of-nowhere option, and John Furphy could also step up. And honestly, the other one to really throw in as a deep name, Rick Carlisle gives randoms minutes. Ben Shepherd was playing 25 minutes in playoff games. Maybe that's a lie, but he was at some point. He was playing minutes ago, Ben Shepherd. Watch for Cam Jones, a shooting guard, point guard, hybrid combo guard who was more point guard than shooting guard last season for Marquette, upped his assist rate, had been a really excellent shooter in the past. And he could easily outplay Shepherd. A name to watch, Cam Jones, as a deep league guy. Injuries. Well, you might think that I've just repeated the same thing here, but no, we've got 3 guys with Achilles tears. Tyrese Haliburton's not playing. Isaiah Jackson and James Wiseman tore their Achilles about 3 games apart last season, both as backup centers. Now, they both should be available to play opening night, but I would imagine that both of them will sit back-to-backs, and that's why they've got a lot of centers, and they'll be on limited minutes. It's part of why I'm not investing heavily in Isaiah Jackson in drafts, because I think he's going to be pretty limited earlier on. But then when they're all rolling and going, Carlos is going to rotate through them all. And that's going to make it annoying for us to try and predict where the value sits. Jackson, elite shot blocker, pretty good rebounder, good field goal percentage guy. In the past, has flashed an ability to take some threes, but not like Huff. Huff still will be the better option, but I think they're just going to eat each other's asses a bit and limit any of them from being anything more than a back-end guy. So, we watch it. And again, they signed Jackson to that 3-year, $21 million contract, so there's a bit of confidence in that. But also, they signed him for 3 years. I don't think they're going to push him too much this season. And they would hope that he can grow to be their long-term starting center next season, I would guess. But $7 million is also not that much money. Lastly, when we talk about the Pacers, is their schedule. They've got 13 back-to-backs, the lowest amount in the NBA. That's, again, important mainly for Isaiah Jackson, but also don't really worry about it too much. So let's have a bit of a recap of this team. I do think that Siakam is going a little bit too high. If you wanted to go into round 4 for him, I think that's fine. If you took back end of round 3, I think it's probably on the high end, and it's more suited to points leagues there. I get it. Nembhard is going too high. In the 90s, sure. Even though I don't have him there. I have him outside the top 100. But if you wanted to do it, okay. Mathurin in the 80s is crazy. But again, if he's in the hundreds, I will do it. McConnell, I really like. Nesmith, I really like as later round players. And then taking a Huff and Jackson. You could even take both, honestly, with your last and second last pick if you wanted to. See what happens opening night, drop the other one. Also a possibility to do. But I think both Isaiah Jackson and Jay Huff should be picked in most leagues, and we just see how they decide to use that spot, because I think it's going to be up and down. Toppin's a 14-team league guy, and then you wait and see on Shepherd and Furphy and those sort of guys to see what they're able to do. Nesmith, nice later round pick, which I think I mentioned. Locked on Fantasy Basketball, check it out. Linktree/LOFB Bowl. QR on the screen, link in the description. Go join some leagues. Subscribe on this, thumb it up, leave comments, give it a hype if you're on the YouTube mobile app as well. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.